My name is Jerry Gill, and today is November 6th, 2008, and I'm visiting with Dr. Lester Johnson in his home in Stillwater, Oklahoma. And this interview is for the Old State Storage Project at the Oklahoma Oral History Research Program. Dr. Johnson, can you share some information about your life and your early life, where you grew up, and your family, and a little bit about before you come to Oklahoma State?
I was born in Ravia, Oklahoma, April 5th, 1918. Spent my early years there, finished high school there in 1935. Mm-hmm. And my background is my dad was a farmer and a rancher, mainly ranching. Mm-hmm. And we had all kinds of livestock. And that's my background and the reason for my interest in veterinary medicine, especially the large animal aspect of it. And this is what I had in mind whenever I could accomplish it for a long time. And I went to Murray State College first, and then came to Oklahoma A&M College and received my first degree in education at Oklahoma A&M. There was no veterinary college at that time here.
What year did you graduate?
1939.
1939.
Yeah.
And then you went to Texas A&M?
I went to Texas A&M and received my DVM.
Right out of school, was there any time in between? Or?
Yes, I spent time in between my graduation from Oklahoma A&M and Texas A&M in World War II.
Okay.
And was spent 3.5 years in the Air Force and 2 years in Europe with the 8th Air Force.
Okay.
And came back and finished my veterinary work and practiced in Ada. Mm-hmm. And then short term with the Agricultural Research Service in Dallas. Then I moved up here for what I thought would be at least a short term and get some experience, and that turned into 30 years.
Okay. Well, let me back up. So you in World War II?
Yes.
Were you stationed in Europe? Did you say?
I was stationed most of the time in Europe, 2 years. Mm-hmm. In fact, 2 years to the day, from the time I passed the Statue of Liberty to the time I came back and touched U.S. soil was 2 years.
2 years.
And
what job?
I was in the Air Weather Service with the Air Force. Mm-hmm. Enjoyed it. Very interesting work. And meteorology is, to me, an interesting type of work. Challenging.
Did you thought about pursuing that as a career? Maybe?
Sure did. It was a tough decision to change. If I hadn't, I guess, gotten started in veterinary medicine, I might have, because I could have stepped right into a job on discharge. They were trying to get us, and stepped into. You knew aviation was going to really boom once we got into the peace aspect of it, and I sure did have time to make a decision. But I want to be a veterinarian, so I did.
What is there a story about how you got to Texas A&M?
Oh, yes, there is. It's a long one, but I won't tell it all. At that stage, they were taking the only Texas students. They had all they can do to fill their quota with Texas students. So I was told, though, how to get in. I did apply at Colorado, didn't really apply, I guess I inquired at Colorado, Kansas State, and Iowa State. Mm-hmm. And the one I could get in the soonest, so to speak, was Texas A&M. And I was told that I would come in, they would let me in as a special student. And once I was there, and even though I didn't make the next class, I would slip into the first vacant slot they had in that class. They said, we will have dropouts. Mm-hmm. And I'll put you in one of those dropouts. Mm-hmm. So in a way, I didn't have to compete with the Texas students to get in.
Great.
And I made it. Mm-hmm. And another thing, there was kind of a gentleman's agreement, or maybe it's more formal than I realized, between Oklahoma A&M and Texas A&M on the acceptance of students. And so I essentially was there as a Texas student, even though I wasn't, because of that. I always thought it was a gentleman's agreement, because we didn't have veterinary school in Oklahoma, that they would, if they could, they would take Oklahoma students, and that's kind of the way it is.
Well, just a sidebar. I understand that we sort of reciprocated in some years, because at that time it was all male.
All male. Oh yeah.
And so did we get some of the women that applied that couldn't be accepted in Texas, and we took some of those? Is that right?
That's right. Mm-hmm. When I came here, we had I guess not the first girl, but there were just a few years. We had most of the girls were from Texas, because all male down there, military, and They weren't accepted, but we had a contract with Texas to take their girls. So they came here, and we had some good students from Texas.
Their loss was our gain. Huh?
That's right. And we, at the time, they went co-ed down there. We had a girl here that, I don't know, she must have been about her third year. And she could have gone either place. And she said, no, I'll just stay here. I like it here. And she went on and finished her degree here. But it was interesting being a military school and how they felt and how they did and how they accepted students. And I was glad that they thought enough of me and my application to say, tell me how to get in. And that's what they did.
That's great. What do you remember about your program at Texas A&M? Any professors you remember particularly? Or
going to school there, you mean?
At A&M?
Well, the thing that I thought was good about Texas A&M, it's the most friendly place that I had ever been. And one of the things that impressed me was with the youngsters coming in, the first-year students, you had better introduce yourself and speak to students. Or, I mean, to anyone you saw, really, speak. And I guess that communication and friendly aspect of it was really, I know how important it was, and I noticed that we did it here, but not like they were down there. In fact, the upper class would watch the lower classmen, and if they didn't, they had them doing a little extra duty.
Did you have to learn some of the Aggie traditions?
Oh, yeah. Oh, sure.
Even though you wasn't an undergraduate, you were professional.
Of course you did. Anyway, of course they had their bonfire. And the interesting thing about it, I'd already had the military, as I said, the hard way. And the interesting thing about it was when they decided to do something or protest or just wanted to get something done as a unit, they'd fall in line and march to the president's office and tell them what they wanted, rather than one or two going, and it had an effect.
You just kind of going back. You said growing up on the farm influenced you to become veterinary. Now most of your career was in equine practice. And so what drove you that direction?
Well, I guess really it's my dad used to say he made his living out of cattle and made his money out of horses because he liked fine horses. And of course we had to have horses then on the ranch to do the work, and cow horses and farm to pull the wagons, and he got into the American saddle horse breed and had some real good ones and had some national recognition with his horses. I showed horses, he did, and I did too as a kid for a number of years. And that's how I got into the horses. Now, as far as my practice, I would say my interest was large animals especially. And I never thought I'd be strictly an equine practitioner because I'd like both of it. I like to be able to help the beef man and dairy man and the swine man for that matter and their endeavors to make a living out of it. So I had an interest both ways. When I came here, I did just about everything in large animals.
This was at Ada?
At Ada.
Practice?
Yeah.
And how long did you practice before you came to OSU?
I was there, I think I practiced, 4 years.
4 years?
Yeah.
And then you were telling me a little bit earlier, kind of off camera, the story about how you got to Oklahoma State. Who influenced you to come to Oklahoma State?
As a
student, as a professor.
Oh yeah, all right. I was working with the Agricultural Research Service at that time in Dallas, and the people at University of Missouri, that was a relatively new school also, and I went up there for an interview, and they wanted someone to do their outside field work with the college herds and the farms around Columbia. And they offered me the job. On the way home, I said, I just believe I'll stop by Stillwater and see just to visit. And I ran into Dr. Wolf, J. Wiley Wolf, and we had a short visit. First thing you know, he said, I've got a spot here. Would you like to come to Stillwater? Well, of course, I had a preference for Oklahoma. One thing during the war, I thought if I ever get back to Oklahoma or the Southwest, I'm not going to leave. Oh, shoot. Can you go on with this?
Sure. So you decided to stop by Stillwater. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and after our visit, he was interested, and I decided I was interested, and my wife happened to be with me, and he talked to Dean Orr, and I would say within about 3 hours, with a lunch in between, I was on my way to Stillwater permanently. I had to go back to Dallas, give them notice, and I started here the first day of July, 1954.
Things are different now than when
It's sure different.
were
They're
talking.
different at that time because now you go through the affirmative action aspect of it, and takes a while to hire somebody. And but the situation was such then, as I said, it done in about 3 hours. It was all done.
Now, you still, at this time, did you still have your practice at A&M?
No, I was down with Agricultural Research Service in Dallas.
Dallas, okay.
I was there about 6 months.
I see.
Yeah.
Well, gosh, let's see, 1954,
Mhm.
you got to Oklahoma State. Can you tell us a little bit about the college and the facilities and what it was like? I'm sure it's a little bit different than
Oh,
today,
it's sure
right?
quite different. The when I came here, the present part of the present building, I'd say about a third of it was there. It was the rest has been built since. Let me think a minute. The anatomy, which the first 2 years, the first year or two anyway, the program was over in what they call TF9. It was about halfway between the present facility and the main center of the campus. And that's where they started out, and it was one of the buildings built during the war, temporary building.
One of the barracks buildings.
Barracks buildings, and that's where they had their anatomy and where they started. And the dean's office was over in life sciences. So we were scattered in 3 or 4 places in over the campus. And after the second wing was built, and I can't remember when that was done. That was several years later. Then, by the way, the small animal clinic was in the south wing of the old large animal clinic, what had been intended to be the sheep, goat, and swine part of the building. So they modified it to the point that that was where the small animal clinic was. My first office here was in a horse stall. And another interesting thing about it, the president's office, the department head's office, was up on the 3rd floor. And we used to joke about him. He got up there and hid, and you wouldn't go see him because it's too much trouble to get up there.
Well, what were some of the equipment, some of the facilities? What can you describe some of them for us?
Well, we had the old horse and cattle operating table that came from Fort Reno. In fact, Fort Reno was closing down about that time, and they gave us quite a bit of the old equipment. And one thing about that was it took so long to put a horse or a cow on the table. It took a lot longer and get them off than it did to do any surgery on them. So consequently, we just had a mat, much like the wrestling mat, that we put them down on the floor and did our surgery on our hands and knees, so to speak.
On a mat on the floor?
And the first one was a wrestling mat. When I came here, they were using a wrestling mat that they had gotten from the athletic department. And that's what we put them down on to do the surgery.
That's a great story. Oh, gosh. Well, now some of your offices, so you're in a stall.
I was in a horse stall.
Horse stall.
It was, I would say, roughly 12 by 12, and it was built for the larger horses, the draft horses or Percherons, and most of the clinicians were in those stalls. And I had a part-time secretary, and we locked them with a padlock from the outside. She would come whenever she could. I'd leave her work to do, and she'd come and do the work. And one Saturday, we worked until noon on Saturday, and one Saturday I didn't know she had come in. And I had gone out, and she had come in to do her work. I just came by and threw the chain on the thing and locked the door. Dr. Moe happened to be out on a call and came by and heard her kicking on the door. Otherwise, I don't know when she would have gotten out. And she accused me, of course, of doing it on purpose. But I didn't. But fortunately, he let her out, and she was in there about an hour.
So now, who was the dean then?
Dean Harry Orr.
Dean Harry Orr.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
And Now, who was the individual that talked to you about joining the faculty? Was it Dean Orr or was someone else?
J. Wiley Wolf.
Was he department head?
Department head, head of medicine, surgery, and director of clinics.
Oh, okay. And what was your first teaching assignment? We talked about earlier. You indicated that even though equine was your specialty for several years, you did a lot of.
I did sporadic diseases of all large animals. That's the mostly non-infectious diseases aspect of it. It was a 6-hour course, and we had also taught restraint of large animals, how to catch them, hold them without getting hurt, and I taught that aspect of it. And I didn't make any difference. I did the horses, cattle, sheep, swine, and the cattle. At that time, we had quite a few dairies around here. So dairy cattle and beef cattle, of course, and that aspect was our main practice. Horses had declined because of World War II in their interest, but they were coming back. And it was several years before they came back and became a major force. And they a different type of horse, too, in that, of course, racing has always been for entertainment has always been.
Draft horses earlier.
Yeah, draft horses earlier. We quit seeing draft horses. We did see a lot of mules, and I don't know why, but for some reason Shetland ponies became the most popular. For a while, those little things were worth their weight in gold almost, but it was a fad type thing, and there was two really large Shetland pony farms in this area. And then as quarter horses were coming on and popular and more popular, and with time became very important to Oklahoma's economy. And so generally then after the Shetland pony kind of faded as part of it, it was a light horse type of practice.
More quarter horse.
Quarter horse, race horses. And the show horses, like the Tennessee Walkers, American saddle horses, gradually declined. The one that's popular right now for show horses, in addition to the quarter horse, Morgans. There's some nice Morgan horses in the state.
What can you tell me something about some of the faculty? Did you recall?
The organization of the college was different than it is now, and of course, faculty from our point of view, were short because of caseload as well as the number of people he had to do the work. And I did mostly large animals. I think I probably was hired to do medicine, but I did all of it, and medicine and surgery. I took the place of Dr. Perry and Henry. And at the same time, Dr. E.W. Jones came, and he was the surgeon. But we didn't cut the lines that fine. It was we all tend to do the same thing. Dr. Lewis Moe had been here for a long time, and he was our farm or ambulatory clinician. And he had a fellow, Dr. Paul Cardiac, a young man that helped him. At that time, we didn't have formal class work in the summer in clinics, but we kept it open because we felt like we had to support our clients and keep a clientele so that we would have the animals to come in during the school year. And that was an interesting thing for us because we didn't have to prepare for classes, but we still would do the work, and the students liked it because we would hire 2 or 3 students to help us, and they got to see and do just about everything that came in, and they liked that aspect of it. Later on, I think it was about 1970, when we went to the year-round program, and we thought, well, we've got the facilities, why don't we go to the year-round program? And we did. That's much as they're doing now, with some modifications.
Was Dean Lewis still alive at that time when you were there?
No. Dean McElroy, Clarence McElroy. He had just retired when I came here, and Dr. Orr had just taken over. By the way, Dr. Orr taught me physiology when I went to school here, way back in the late 30s.
Great. What have you always had? Did you sort of gravitate towards equine then later in your career?
We tend to kind of gravitate species-wise. And even though we thought of it early as just large animals, um, we got to thinking in terms of food animal versus as the horse became less important as a beast of burden, work animal, and more for pleasure. And then we think, as we do now, the horse as a companion animal. So even though I continued to do cattle work all the time I was out there, but I had more experience with horses than anyone else there at the time, and so I gravitated that way, and we gradually built up a pretty good size horse clientele.
So you said that earlier, your love of horses come from with your dad.
My dad and my background on a ranch, and even though I still like the horses, I like the cattle and the sheep and swine. But I guess the next to the horse, I did, more work on cattle.
Well, so you wound up staying at OSU 30 years?
30 years.
54 to 84. did you think you were going to stay at OSU that long?
I had no idea. I thought, I came as assistant professor, and that's a 3-year appointment. And I thought, a year or 2 or 3, and then I'll move on. But I didn't for a while.
Did you think you'd get back into practice?
That was where I would have gone had my earlier thoughts, but I did enjoy the students. Teaching and working with the students. You have a student that comes in just to be playing with it, kind of green, leave here, able to step out into practice, provide a service, and make a living. And it was good to see that.
Well, I want to come back and ask you some questions about that, because I know you've had some lifelong relationships there. But what was the attraction for keeping you here 30 years? I mean, I'm sure you had opportunities to go other places.
Yeah.
But what is it about OSU that kept you here?
Of course, I like Oklahoma. I'm an Okie from way back.
Got your undergraduate degree.
I got undergraduate here, and I like Stillwater. Still do like Stillwater. And I, as I said earlier, once I got out of the service, I was going to settle in the Southwest. I didn't want either of the coasts, too many people. Not enough apples. And that's, I guess, my main thoughts all along. And had I gone into practice somewhere else, it would have been still in this area, because I like this area, this state. The people of Oklahoma, I think, are the best, and that's my background.
You're, all those years, can you recall for some of the faculty members and administrators that you admired and respected over the years?
Well, of course, shortly after I came, Dean Orr died, and Glenn Holm came as dean. And being a new school, and I guess maybe all go through similar growth pains, and he did a lot, I always thought, with little, from a standpoint of finances and the things that we needed, and somehow we got things done. And of course, Dr. Dwayne Peterson and Dr. Jonathan Friend were in anatomy. They're the first ones that got the shot at the students. They did an excellent job in giving them a background to come in and do clinical medicine. Dr. Leslie McDonald was head of physiology. Dr. Wendell Krull, a noted parasitologist, internationally renowned, was head of parasitology. And shortly after I came, Andrew Monolux became head of physiology. The what was then called, I believe, bacteriology and later microbiology was headed by Dr. Lynn Gee. And they were all good people, good qualified people in their field.
I've kind of heard from talking to some of the others. There's a very collegial aspect there, and can you tell us some stories? And there's got to be some good stories there. Some funny, humorous stories about some of your colleagues that you worked with.
Well, the thing that I think it was because we were not just loaded with money, equipment, and things to do, and we had to make do. We worked together, and we'd go out to Lake Carl, Blackwell, and picnics and visits, and there was a good rapport, generally speaking, with us, and because we're all working towards the same goal, and that's producing a good student. And I think we all enjoyed our work, even though it might not have been the best circumstances. Or to tell some of the interesting things, I can recall a number of animals getting away from us, large animals, because we didn't have a way to contain them. And I can remember one old cow that started running down the hall, and someone had failed to close the big door that was to the outside, but it still had about a 4-foot drop. And she leaped out of that thing like she knew what she was doing. And we saw her going out across country.
Have you seen her again since?
Yeah, we found her, we caught her. And Dr. Schoenweiss was there, and Dr. Schoenweiss and I kind of tracked her and trailed her like a dog. And we caught her over there on the west side of some of the animal science pasture. Roped her and tied her to a tree, and then got a trailer and brought her home. And let's see, one other thing that's interesting, some of them didn't particularly, especially the small animal people, didn't think much of. We stopped at noon to have our lunch, and we came back, and here's a dog running back and forth on the roof of the large animal clinic. And we'd found that somehow had gotten out of his cage, had gone upstairs. On the 3rd floor was a dormitory where 16 students stayed, and they were students that worked and kind of helped us out there. Got out a window in their shower and was running back and forth. Now, the small animal people didn't think that's funny at all. And I got a picture of it, and Dr. Walter Rice was head of small animals. And he said, "Can I have that picture?" And I said, "Yeah." I thought he wanted, to save. He did. I don't know what it's the last time I ever saw it. I'm sure he
tore it up, threw it away. Well, you talked about earlier about students, working with students, and can you recall some of the outstanding students you had over the years? I mean, the time they were students there, and then later in their practice and their professions.
Let's see,
stand out for you.
The first students that I had, and this was in third years when I really started teaching them, both clinics as well as the lecture courses. And this year we had one of them named Outstanding Alumnus, that's Dr. Louis Stratton. And at the conference this year, he was named Outstanding Alumnus. And Dr. Ray Henry over at Pawnee was always very supportive of us and was helpful to us, and we tried to reciprocate. I didn't teach him because he finished the first class we had here, but I got to know him. He was a good man. We've had some of the students that went on, I'd say nationally or internationally, to accomplish something. I hate to start naming with so many of them that I know I'll leave out some good ones, but we had Bob Whitney that was Assistant Surgeon General for the federal government for years.
Oh, that's right.
And we have one now that's head of, I believe he still is, head at Plum Island Research Station on the East Coast. Let's see, there was another one. One also out that was in that area was interested in wildlife, and was quite well known. There are plenty of them, but don't come to mind right now. But if I might think of them a little later on if we have a chance to slip it in.
Certain special students you had that you were sort of mentors to. I'm sure your mentors
a number of them really, yeah. And it's kind of the same way because I felt like it's my obligation to be helpful to the students after they graduated if I could, and that they would help me if they could, if I needed help. And it was great because we could reciprocate with one another. And it was quite frequent that, all of us went out on consultation, especially in the clinics. And this is one thing about coming here, out in practice, the people that you could call on or consult with were few because there aren't many veterinarians. Here, there were a number of them that you could call on in other areas or other departments that would help you out if you felt like you needed to talk and consult. And I thought that was great.
Well, how have vet students, changed over the years for better, for worse?
Well, as they've changed, I guess you just say it's changed with the times and changed with the generations. Many of the students that we had early were, I guess, rural background. Mm-hmm. And they had some farm experience, ranch experience from a large animal standpoint. Some that came here without any large animal experience still went into large animals, and some vice versa. They went into small animals, some of the farm boys, because there's a difference in the physical work that you do and the type of work. And early, I'd say we had mostly the rural type background student that came here. And then I believe there was one girl in the first class when I came here, June Iben, and there were years when we didn't have any. Then the first girl that we had to graduate was Janet Grantham. She was out from western Oklahoma, I think she's still active, or at least I see her now and then, and she makes meetings. Then, of course, we had the contract with the Texas students, and more girls came in. And I don't know the percentage right now, but I think over half the students probably are girls, women, females.
Lorenz mentioned it's about 2 to 1 now.
Yeah, and of course their interest is it just turns out, I think, and I wouldn't say predominantly, but it still turns out that they probably go in small animals. A concern that I've had in the last few years has been probably we don't have maybe the lack of food animal veterinarians, and I believe that's being recognized now, and they're trying to do something about it. I don't know what they can do, but that's a factor.
What some of the you've been close to your students in years. What are some special qualities that you've always appreciated about OSU students?
Well, I guess first thing, they have to realize that the curriculum is very time consuming. And I used to tell them always, you can do it because you've shown that you have the scholarship and the academic abilities to do it, but don't ever fall behind and say, well, I'll catch up next week, because it never tends to arrive. You can't, the time is not there to recoup, so you better stay up. And I've had students that dropped out of veterinary school that would just say, I'm not willing to put this much time in it. And that's fine, because that's too long to go to school and still find out you're in a wrong profession. So the characteristic that I would say was the ability, in addition to the academic ability, the ability to stay with it and like the work and enjoy it, because after all, it is work, especially large animals, and but it is, I think, very rewarding, and you're accomplishing something for society, and if even almost to a fault sometimes, back early especially, kind of workaholics. They need to wake up and be able to do something else too, rather than just work.
But Oklahoma kids had a pretty good work ethic.
They do. They have a great work ethic, yeah. Now, we had contracts with other states, and they sent us some good students. Arkansas, Carolina, West Virginia, Dakotas, Nebraska. And they sent us good students. Of course, they naturally would send good students because that's what they wanted to do.
Now, talking about students, surely you got some stories you can tell on Dean Lorenz. I mean, did you have him as a student, Michael Lorenz?
Michael was an excellent student. In fact, he's an outstanding student that year for the university that he graduated. Good person. His interest was small animals. And he liked to chide me once in a while about something, to come in about large animals, But I would try to chide back. But anyway, even though I would see him at meetings after he graduated and kept up with him, we were in different areas and attended different sessions of meetings because of his interest. But I think as a dean, he's really willing to look at the overall picture. he has to.
I thought you might have some good stories, some dirt you could give us on him.
No, unfortunately, because of his interest, even though I had him in class and contact with him, and he went through the clinics and did a good job, he wasn't one of those that knew he was going to be large animals and was going to follow the clinician around and learn everything he could. And that type would tend to things would happen and come up. I might tell you one. I won't tell you the name. I was told in school that the most dangerous animal we'd ever work on probably was a dairy bull because they're moody, and you never know when they're going to turn on you. And but at the meeting last week, I saw this student, and he says, "Do you remember seeing me in the stall with a bull, and you told me, would you please come out a minute?" And I walked out, and he says, "You just did that to get me out of there because I was in a dangerous spot." And he said, "I appreciate it."
He didn't know that he was. Huh?
No, he didn't realize it. He was a city boy. You're talking about city versus country. And he had no idea but what your old bull would just be fine. And he was. But you never know when they're going to turn.
That's good. Well, what are you've been involved in? I mean, you were, I think, interim head of surgery, for a while.
Medicine and surgery. Yeah.
You've all the work with the industry, and I want to pursue that in just a little bit. But in your professional career, what areas have been most satisfying, most rewarding to you?
Teaching. Yes, the education aspect of it, in both to the pre-professional as well as afterward, the continuing education aspect of it, because I think it's one of those things that you can always learn more and a better way of doing things, and that's continuing education teaching is really where my interest was and still is.
Well, what was your special joy you got from teaching?
That student that came in green went out a professional person. That was, you see them. And if you recall some of those students and how really green they were the first time they hit clinics, and how they were able to get out of here and handle things, work on a mean bull or horse without getting hurt. I just tell them, you can't make a living for yourself and your family in a hospital bed. So you better pay attention to this restraint.
I guess in later years, as some of they got their practicing experience, y'all had some good stories to tell when you did meetings. And
at meetings. Now, at one meeting, one of the fellows got up and said, "I challenge some of you to tell some of your goofs and your mistakes." And I tell you, that was hilarious.
I'm sure it was. Oh, gosh. Well, what... you still seem, as I talk to you, I mean, you still have a smile in your voice, and you tell you enjoyed it. What's kept you going for so many years in profession? You were 30 years in profession, then obviously you've stayed.
I've stayed interested. I guess just loving my work. I like the work, and the animals. I don't know. I make a distinction about loving animals and liking animals. And for me personally, it's the liking animals and to work with them rather than loving them, because you can get too emotionally attached with that loving aspect if you just think it's you just talking semantics. And I just like animals, like to work with them, and you see this animal that you can help. And one of the things that gratified me a lot was working with dairy animals and thinking of the person that's milking these cows and making a good living out of it too. And that is, you have one that's, when she drops in production just the slightest amount, that dairyman knows it. And the good dairyman will call a veterinarian and find out why. And you can do something to that animal to get her back to her top production, then that's very gratifying to me. And,
it sounds like you liked animals and loved students.
That's right. Yeah.
That's great. Well, also, Dr. Johnson, you've had a long, distinguished career, and I'm going to brag a little bit in equine medicine and veterinary medicine generally. But in addition to your academic duties, just reading off some things here, you were president of the Oklahoma Veterinary Medicine Association, 1975 and 76. You were recognized as Oklahoma Veterinarian of the Year in 1983, and there's other awards you received. But can you share a little about your philosophy of working with practitioners, with alumni out in the field, in the horse industry, and comment on the importance of relations mainly.
Well, from a public relations standpoint, and when I came here, I thought that was very important. Dr. Wolf, the department head, agreed, and that we should, of course, a new school, and we're wanting to build a decent reputation, a good reputation, and we were willing to go out and help veterinarians, whether they were our graduates or not. I had as many good friends that were not our graduates that I didn't teach as I had students that I taught after they got out into the profession.
Well, early on in your career, we didn't have that many graduates out there.
That's right, we didn't have, yes. And a thing that I noticed when I came to Oklahoma, about the south half of the state were Texas graduates, and north half Kansas State graduates, and then a few scattered and others in between. But I didn't want to make any distinction, and I wanted them to help us, and I wanted to help them. And as president of the OVMA, the state association, I got to know. I knew at one time just about every veterinarian in this state. And I felt like with most of them I had a good relationship. I don't. Go ahead.
How'd that play out? I mean, it's important two ways. It's important to, and of course, it's important to them that the college and you personally stayed, close to them. But I guess it's important to the college as well.
Yeah, we need the support as the alumni. We needed them. We needed their goodwill. And they needed our goodwill and help. And going out on the consultation, many of them they just weren't quite sure if they were on the right track. Most of them were, but they just wanted that reinforcement. And of course, if they weren't, or if we could help them, we would try to help them. And it worked out very well, I thought. And we didn't have the extension service. We had it, but not like we have now. And especially in the clinics, in the large animal clinics, we went out a lot. And if they wanted to have a meeting, a small meeting, and wanted a speaker, and we had someone that would go, we'd go. And we did not expect anything for it.
Reimbursement for travel expenses.
No. Now, the most of the time, the clinic or the school was willing and did furnish us car, and we weren't out anything except really the time. But I still think that was one of the best things that we were able to do here, from our public relations standpoint, is go out and help them.
Did you form a close bond with the racing industry?
Not too much. I did some of the veterinarians because I was really in a different phase of equine practice, and racing here, of course, was not legal. Parimutuel wasn't until more recent years. And I did have some. I think I had more close relationship with veterinarians involved in it from a consultation basis than owners, because I didn't feel like really that we should be competing particularly with that veterinarian, say, that's down in Oklahoma City trying to make a living out of it at the racetrack, unless he needed our help. But we still did need, and somewhere this line is, you have to kind of watch, in my opinion. We didn't want to take clients away from them, and because we were paid a salary to do our teaching and do our job. And one thing that Dr. Wolf told me right off when I came, that you're working for OSU, and just don't take tips. You'll find people that will want to do it. Don't do it, because you can't. It just won't work out. And I think he was right. And,
horse racing people are interesting people.
They are.
Some characters.
They
You
are.
got some stories you can share with us about some of your experiences working with some of the horse people?
Well, of course, they want that horse that comes in first. They want that head in front.
Sure, that
And,
just knows even more.
I would some of the things that I'm always concerned about, especially with young horses, that I felt some of them are running too young. But when you talk to them and they explained it to me, their business and their desires, I could see their point of view. They wanted this horse to make a reputation as soon as he could, especially a stallion,
Sure.
for breeding purposes, because that eventually is what they hoped to make some money on. The winnings were fine, but the horse still had to have the reputation before he had a breeding reputation to produce offspring that could win. There was a farm over at Perry that had I guess he was a famous racehorse, had a reputation for producing winners. And he could make some money out of that as a breeding animal. And the out at in western Oklahoma, there was another one that had a horse called Jet Deck, and I've forgotten some of the names of those horses. That they were quarter horses and race horses that produced winners. And of course, they're in thinking about their relationship with themselves, they support one another, yet they're fiercely competitive.
Sure.
When that horse is out, their horse is out there running against the other fellow's horse, they want that horse to win, and and they have some pretty good theories, not always very legitimate, on how to get that horse to win. And it's the same way. I was in the show horses with American Saddlebreds for a long time, and it's the same way because it's pride of ownership, and they want to have that winning horse.
Did you get asked some strange questions about performance? I mean,
oh yeah, you have that, but you don't. But of course, another thing though is, of course, you sure better stay legal and keep it legal, or you're asking for trouble. And that's what I tried. I did, and I to instill that in the students.
Did you get asked by some individuals?
Not much, because it doesn't take long. If you never start it, they won't be asked much. So there wasn't a great problem there as far as I was concerned with me with it.
Well, we talked about this a little bit earlier, but again, how important are relationships for the college? Is it? I mean, you've got all the duties of teaching, research. You can be full time, just the academic responsibilities and so on. But is it important to take time? Do you feel for professors, faculty members today, as well as when you were teaching, to stay out in the industry and to stay engaged and spend
very
time?
important to me, and there's people that sure don't agree with me, and don't agree without going out without substantial pay. But I think just from the public relations standpoint and goodwill, I think that is very important. And to me, it's one of the reasons that I enjoyed it, is because I felt like I could help the student, I could help the professional out in the practice. And after all, we're trying to provide a service and make a living. Won't we expect a decent living? And a person that does that, I think, will make a decent living for himself and his family. You have to be careful that you're not a workaholic if you can.
Sure.
And I guess there were times maybe I bordered on a workaholic. Maybe I was. I don't know.
Like you went to an awful lot of meetings.
I did. Yes. But
Dr. Johnson, picking up sort of and I picked up just visiting with you your if you may allow me to use the word passion for the business and for your field. What are looking back in your career? What were some of your favorite memories that stand out for you? There's some high points, some special times.
Well, of course, and you mentioned it earlier. Some of the awards are a recognition that I had for teaching. I had several, and I really appreciated it. I thought I should do a good job. I tried to do a good job, and here my results are out there. So judge them for me. And I feel like, generally speaking, that. That's where I got my most pleasure, as far as the work in general. Now, the basic work, though, of helping that animal is also important, but I want that student to have that same feel towards them and do it.
As a teacher, you had a special role because you're in teaching, animal health, if you will, but you're really, more than that, you're teaching students about animal health.
That's right.
About how to care for them. So you've got that dichotomy. They're both sides that you're working on.
And you mentioned animal health. We also have to think of public health, the human aspect of it, and the relationship of the veterinarian to the public health, and the health of the person, because especially dealing with food animals, or more farther than that, animals that have disease that are transmittable to man or vice versa.
And that's becoming more of an issue currently, isn't it?
That's right. Yes. Yeah. So this is why I mentioned back earlier I'm wondering about the food animal aspect of it, because we need food animal veterinarians to assure that we have a healthy source of food.
Well, we talked about some of your high points. I'm going to kind of prod you again. What are some special memories, special moments? You talking about your awards, or some of those, some other sort of aha times you had?
Well, I of course is in organized medicine. I enjoyed being serving. I was a delegate for a number of years, and then got on the ladder and went up through the presidency. And organized veterinary medicine, I think, is very important. And I think veterinarians should join their organizations because you can do more as a group than you can do individually. And everyone sometimes needs help, regardless. And some of the things that were issues early and well, I guess right on through, was admission to veterinary school, and of course serving on various committees of the school, and especially those that might have to do with the admissions. There was a time when that was a big issue here, whether you recall it or not, but there was, because they have to meet certain requirements, and we feel like we've got to follow those requirements to assure that a person can get into veterinary school and accomplish his will or goals as a veterinary student and become a veterinarian. You have a pretty good idea of the time they've gone through the process of application and interviews and such, whether that person can do the job or not. And there are persons, as I mentioned earlier, that will get into veterinary medicine and find that this is not for me, and they should get out. That's too long to spend in something you don't like. Not that they couldn't do it, but they just, it's not. There's certain things in professions that I wouldn't want to get into. I mentioned meteorology. I was very interested in meteorology and could have easily gone that way. In meteorology, I really like climatology, and it's very challenging. And I think there are phases of veterinary medicine, though, if a person can handle it at all and wants to, that you can find you a niche. There's industry, schools, the teaching, practice, and the variety of things that you can do. I think it's a good thing to get into and know that you can make a decent living if you wish to. But it is, back to, I think, first thing, time consuming. And if you're familiar with the book, All Creatures, Great and Small, what is it? They emphasize the service aspect of it, and said you must attend, which says you have to be available and do your work and do a job.
Sort of on the other side, we're talking about some of your highlights, if you will. Have there been some frustrations? I mean, some disappointments? I mean, in your career, some things that just dadgummit you couldn't get to go the way you wanted it to go?
Oh, I mentioned one earlier. Not really disappointing, and in a way not important. In a way, it kind of is. I thinking of the history and just what you're doing, I think it's a good thing. I have tried for a long time to get them to get a museum going out there. The equipment has changed. We have so much better equipment. The technology and the things that go with it. And some of that old stuff, I don't know where it is now, and I don't know whether they know out there. And the thing, I guess, that pushed me so much, at Texas A&M, they had a museum. And I don't know how we would go in there when we had a little break and look at that things, and some of that stuff was real old stuff. And we had it here really, especially since Fort Reno gave us a lot of their material when we established the school and they closed. They wanted to get rid of it, and I would push it, but I seemed like I could not get it anywhere. And the main thing we need was room. And somewhere there is a collection of stuff that, unless somebody just trashed it, that I think would be very interesting. And you could really tell some good stories seeing that. It would be a reminder. And because we had, in restraining a horse back in the early days, we didn't have the chemical stuff that we have now. And it was mechanical. So you have a big horse, and how are you going to get him down? It's mechanical. They have a harness, put it on him, pull him down, and there are a number of ways of putting that horse down. And one that really impressed me as a man that could do that was Dr. Lewis Moe. And he had experience in the Army as well as here, and he went to school at a time when they just used the mechanical restraint to restrain a large animal.
He was trained to do that.
Yeah, and it's a technique that not everybody can do it and not get hurt. And that's why I taught that out there for years, and for 30 years, and to me it was very important because I didn't want, and we were fortunate. I don't think we ever had a serious injury.
See that museum, I can just imagine that old wrestling mat. Very,
Yeah,
they still
yeah.
got that your operating
Yeah.
table on wrestling mat.
Well, then and with Dr. Jones came about the same time I did. Of course, he did surgery, and he, and along with my helping him some, worked up some anesthesias for large animals, and it got where we could put them on the mat, stand them on the mat, give them the medication, and they'd drop. That's better than putting a harness on them and pulling them down with manpower. And the same way with a bull.
I'm still trying to just in my mind to visualize you getting on your hands and knees operating on that
Well,
mat.
right.
That'd be a little tough on the knees.
Well, some of them out there used to tell me, "You better quit doing that. You're going to ruin your knees." Well, I didn't ruin my knees, but I do have some knee problems.
That's good. Yeah. What you've had a chance to observe, I guess, for half a century now, or more, of veterinary medicine. How has veterinary medicine changed over the years that you've noticed?
Oh, it's of course it's been gradual, but I don't know. A person say that graduated in 1950 and practiced would go into a practice now, maybe the same general type, say large animals or small animals. I think they'd think they're in a foreign land, a strange world, because we have made so much progress in
Technology
in knowledge and technology and what we have available to use to treat those animals, and we can do so much more. One thing I didn't touch on, when I was in school, it was thought you didn't do abdominal surgery on horses. It was too risky. So it was done, but not common like it was other animals. But now it's a fairly common occurrence to open up the abdomen and try to correct something and be successful. And when I graduated, to most people it wasn't done. And you could say a similar thing with other surgeries that have occurred. And again, the medications. And we use very similar medication. When you stop and think, most mammals basically are very similar. You have the species differences that you have to account for, and you can adjust for that.
What has one change been to small animal clinics and practice from companion animals? Has that changed?
Yes, and probably because of the size and the type of facility that you have to work with, the size of the animal is important. you can have much more sophisticated equipment. They can come to the hospital, a small animal hospital, and you can do your work there with the best of equipment and anything that you need. But if you have to go out in the field, for say to do a cesarean on a cow or something like that, it's not near as convenient, or you just don't have the things that you would like when you tie one down between two trees. You know.
Sanitation factor is a little different too.
Yes.
Well, are there any trends that you see in the industry that you think aren't good for veterinary medicine?
No, really, probably it's, if anything, it's not being able to serve all facets. And again, I'll mention food animal again. I hope we can get more food animal practitioners because of the importance to just people in general.
What you again kind of alluding back to being associated with OSU for over 50 years, for over half a century. What have been some, in your mind, some major achievements, significant milestones in the college?
Well, I'll start again with the surgery on horses, abdominal surgery. Along associated with that was the anesthetic medications that were developed and the anesthetic machines that were developed, and some of those were developed here.
What about some of the things here at OSU particularly? I mean, you mentioned anaplasmosis, I think, was it Dean, was it Dr. Holmes who worked in that area?
He as dean, of course, he really supported it.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the one that probably did did a lot of work, I won't say the most work, but a lot of work was Bill Brock.
Mm-hmm.
Dr. Brock was later our dean, and he developed the anaplasmosis vaccine.
Yes.
Now, and going back historically a little bit, Texas fever was one of the things that got them to establish the veterinary school at Texas A&M. Anaplasmosis was a great factor in getting the cattlemen, it was causing such losses, to getting the cattlemen to push to establish this school. The second time around, of course, first time when Lowry Lewis was here, that was back in the teens. But that push by the cattlemen along in the 40s was very important to getting this school established, and the number of veterinary students that wanted to become veterinarians.
There's been some, there's some animal disease work you talked about it. There's some things that Oklahoma State has made a name for itself. I mean, you think of Oklahoma State in veterinary medicine, you think about what kinds of achievements or milestones.
Well, of course, the vaccine that Dr. Brock developed was one of the first. The anesthesia and the anesthetic machines that Dr. Jones worked on, that was early. They used to have some projects here on disease-free pigs, swine. Of course, here we used to, as I said, we had more dairy cattle than we do now, and now going way back, they did some hog collar work here, and just trying to think in small animals. Surgery for diaphragmatic hernias due to cars hitting dogs and rupturing the diaphragm, and equine infectious anemia. Work with that, getting the program through the legislature to get some support, and rabies vaccination, promoting vaccination for rabies in mammals.
What about was getting the teaching hospital? Was that
Well, I'm glad you were talking about the physical plant. Yes, and that was some work. They built the what now then we call the old part of it, which is the north wing out there, where the library is. They built it, and as I said, we've scattered all over campus. The offices were. And the thing that those that accredit veterinary schools, really, they didn't really criticize our product, our students, but our physical plant. And we were on probation for a long time just because we didn't have adequate physical plant. And until we got that teaching hospital along about 1980 or 81, then we got off and got full accreditation.
Got full accreditation for the first time in the
First
history.
time, right,
It's been
first
open
time.
since the late 40s, and it's like
Yeah,
1980.
it took all that time. And yeah, it was one of those, I guess you could say, talking about frustrations, that was one of the frustrations. It was just over the hill, it seemed, but we just couldn't quite get up that hill and over.
Kept moving. You know?
Yeah, and it seemed like all the time that I was out there in my early years, about every 4 or 5 years, they'd say, draw up some plans. We want, and we'd get this from higher up. We want to move on with this hospital. Then we'd do it, and the funds are not there. And that, I don't know how many times that happened. Finally, and I don't know how, if you could put your finger on, I don't know, you couldn't put your finger on any one person, I don't believe, when they decided to get up the hill and get over it and build it. But there's a number of persons, the veterinarians over the state, and the faculty, and our legislators. Now, the two that I noticed probably the most at that time when I was involved were
Senator Murphy, maybe.
Bob Murphy, Senator Murphy, and Dan Draper.
Dan Draper was Speaker of the House.
Yeah, and there were others over the state that really got on the bandwagon and helped us do that. Otherwise, we still would have been doing those 4 and 5 year remodeling jobs that we didn't have the money to do anyway.
It was great, and I guess like I said, getting the accreditation.
Getting your accreditation,
really
and again, it's always was pleasing to me in one way, in that we're not criticizing your product. You're putting out a good product, but you've got to have the physical facilities, and that's why the probation on and on and on. And it was quite a relief to get fully accredited. Just the emotional feeling. Yeah, you're approved now.
Was it exciting? I mean, you're teaching, clinician, clinical work, and to finally have a teaching hospital.
That's right. The facilities to do. And I was on the committee that planned the thing. And when one thing that I learned, when you stop and think, there are not very many teaching hospitals. There are not many architects that have had experience building one, and this fellow that helped us told us. And all his background was human hospitals. Well, some of the things that
drain pipes had
it just doesn't work. And your drain pipes on the hill.
Can you tell? I heard a little bit of story about your operating table. Did you guys design a pretty unique operating table?
Yes. And I would say all of us in large animals were kind of involved in it, had input. But Louis Stratton, I guess, really pushed that and got money to have a prototype. Because, see, this is why I said ready at the beginning, it took you so long sometimes to get a horse on and off the table than it did to do the surgery. And that's why we said, well, we can drop him on a mat and do it and be through. That we had to do it down on our knees.
I understand that the hydraulics, that thing
you can take
horizontal,
up and down
all the way to vertical.
Yeah. See, if you stop and think, you've got a horse. Say he weighs 1,200 pounds. He's not going to get on the table. You're going to have to put him on the table somehow. Well, if he's out of it, you can't put him. You got too much to move. And if he's alive, I mean, he's not sedated somehow. He's hard to get on there and keep on there until you can get him under anesthesia.
Now you just get that table horizontal.
But you've got it. But usually you put him up the side, start fastening him to the table, give him a tranquilizer, then maybe a short-acting anesthetic, hastily tilt the table, rotate it, get him on it, tie him down, get him under anesthesia, and do your surgery. Yeah.
Seems a lot safer way to do it.
It's a lot safer way to do it.
That's great. Well, Dr. Johnson, in your opinion, what's been the strength of OSU College Veterinary Medicine through the years?
And I think it has been, I would say, producing good qualified practitioners that can go out in a field, whatever their choice is, and do decent work and grow from there.
Right. And I've heard it's something like maybe 3 of the last 12 years, the president of the American Veterinary Medical Association has been an OSU.
Yes, we have. We've had 3 of them. For our young school, that's pretty good.
Pretty impressive.
Pretty impressive.
So, I mean, our product's been pretty much recognized.
That's right. They're recognized now that we can produce a professional person that can do their job.
That's great. What, and I understand your personality probably wouldn't lend yourself to this, but if you would, if you were going to give some advice to the current and future faculty administration of the college, what would your advice be?
Well, my interest, of course, in the university in general, you know, you've got research, extension, and teaching. Of course, my interest in teaching. And I guess my advice would be think of the teaching and what you're producing and try to continue to produce a good product and a better product. And you have to think of both of what the service that they're going to provide to the public, as well as do a decent job and make a decent living, and do it in a safe manner.
Well, Dr. Johnson, if I could ask you to just sort of put your humility aside for just a minute, what do you think your legacy has been? The 30 years you were at the college.
Oh, it's no doubt teaching and education. That's what I liked. And a person that is doing what they like to do, I think will do a decent job. Now, of course, this is not to downgrade research and extension. Both are important. You've got to have this research. But some people are good researchers and not necessarily good teachers, and vice versa. And the continuing education aspect of it, that's both to the general public and to the profession that's out there, I think is also very necessary. We've just had a conference here last week. Had a very good attendance, and from what I've heard, a very good conference. But that's the continuing education aspect of it, and that's important. But to me personally, teaching.
And actually, continuing education is teaching as well.
It's teaching as well, right?
Professionals.
Yeah. I the only research that I ever did was clinical research, and to me, in research work, you may be successful in developing something, and you may not, or it takes a long time. I like to see immediate results.
Like to see the test score. That's great. Well, one thing I want to ask you about is you were associated with. At one time, the college was involved in Guatemala, I think.
Yes,
project. You were involved. Can you tell me a little bit about that project? You're thinking of extension and education. International education falls into that.
Right. Yeah. Well, yeah, and even before that. Now, I didn't go, but a number of our people went to Ethiopia. You know.
Yes.
Well, then I went to Guatemala, and it was on the aid program, and worked. Dr. Dean Brock, later Dean Brock, at that time he was in pathology, and he was the party, what do you call it, chief of party down there. And my job was to go down there and work with in the large animal clinic. It turned out I worked both clinics, large and small clinics, animals, and I guess I have mixed feelings on it. I felt like that I was accepted well, and did to a point a decent job of working with them, and I worked with the students, but especially with the faculty down there. And the thing that I felt like was lacking was the basics. You know, you've got to have a foundation, like our extension program, things to build on. They didn't have a lot of that type of work.
Were they building a veterinary college?
They were building a veterinary college when I was there. Now they were still building when I left, but they were well along, and it looked like it was going to be a decent facility. And now one thing that I did notice among their faculty, in addition to our being there were some Germans there. In fact, the Germans took over our program after we left. But they had a number of veterinarians from Latin America, other countries, South America, Central America, in there working with them. And they were trying, it seemed to me, to make a concerted effort to bring in different people from different backgrounds and to help them out. And it was interesting, yet on the other hand, sometimes it was frustrating because the things that we're used to here and used to having, it wasn't there. And I wish they'd had better foundation to build on. I think we'd accomplished more.
Well, maybe sort of my final question to you is how do you hope people remember Dr. Lester Johnson, DVM?
Well, there's an old, I guess, as a mentor. In fact, I am too. I guess I still am for the association. To go out and be a mentor for students. But I haven't been doing that recently. And of course, there's I don't know how he fits in the term general doctor used. Someone that I guess has a personality and the desire to want to work with young people and see them develop and help them develop and go out and do a good job in whatever they want to do.
It's a great way to be remembered.
Yeah.
Okay.
But now there were some that I thought of in the past I can't think of right now. Are you have it going?
Mm-hmm. Yes, sir. Go right ahead. And we were talking about kind of parables. We were talking about sort of when you got here in 1954, what it must have been like at OSU as opposed to now. Yeah. And so you're going to share some of those things with us.
Well, the first wing, and one thing I just mentioned in passing was what we call the crow's nest. That was up on the third floor. It was a dormitory.
Now, Dr. Johnson, I kind of back up for people listening. When we think of the school, not the teaching hospital, but the school right now, it's had 2 additions since the original. You're just talking about the original wing.
Yeah, right.
They're just one ring.
Yeah,
wing.
Yeah. That was where the large animal clinic and the small animal clinic, where it was built primarily as a large animal clinic.
Then it had 2 additions.
Did 2 additions later on, the middle wing and then the second wing. Mm-hmm. That's where the second wing, no, third wing would be the second aspect. Third aspect over here, I'm mixed up. That's where physiology is right now.
So we just had one small.
Building there, actually. Yeah, the first, and it wasn't necessarily small. It just that's why it was built for large animals and made into small animals. But we had some interesting happenings at the dormitory. There were 16 places there for students, and they were students that worked for the different departments.
Third floor.
Third floor. Mm-hmm. It had a shower and beds, and I don't know how many rooms were there, but probably 7 or 8. Room, maybe more than that. And they also answered our phone at night. Mm-hmm. And of course, they became pretty good then in handling the public and public inquiries. Mm-hmm. They're the ones that took the calls that called us then to go on emergency. Mm-hmm. And we had some people that would leave home with an animal, this is large animal especially, that they were hauling them around, and somehow got sidetracked, probably meeting buddies and having fun, and didn't get there after hours. And I would go out sometimes at night, 9, 10 o'clock, because they had just arrived from maybe 15 miles away, because they hauled this old cow wherever they went in their visit with their colleagues. And that happened on 2 or 3 occasions. There's one particular fellow that seemed to be pretty bad about that. And one night his wife called, and I thought, well, he's not here. Well, he's supposed to be. He left here at 9 o'clock. 9 o'clock this morning. And she said, oh, well, that's just like him. It didn't bother a whole lot. That.
And I thought maybe he might have some explaining to do.
Yeah, but I guess she was used to it.
So that was the main building. I guess they've regutted that and done that different. With
it's different now.
Totally different now.
It's different now. On kind of the mid section, I guess you'd call it the second floor, was where some of the offices were then. That's where the department head was then. And you had a temporary stairway that you had to climb. That's why no one ever went to see him. It's too much trouble to go up, even if you want to complain, to go up and visit him.
So now, some of the other facilities you described a few of those a little bit earlier. I mean, but you had of course, you were talking about the sort of I don't say the barn, the stalls, where some of you actually had your offices built into some of the stalls.
Stalls.
Yeah. Right. They redone them. They replaced them. Were you just in a stall? I mean.
That's right. We just put a desk in there and for what we needed, and that was our office.
So I mean, you didn't redecorate it.
The only thing about it, we were safe in there because no one could get in and get out. But one thing that I should have mentioned that I didn't is the next set of offices we had was an old Army barracks that they moved from over on campus. The building is still there, and we had our offices in the north end of that, and a small animal clinic was in the south. At least it got them out of the pig pens and the sheep pens into that area. That was the second.
So you moved to Quonset, that was a move up for
yeah,
you.
yeah. And but we were in the north end, the large animal office part of it. And then when they built the second wing, they built a small animal clinic. And of course, it remained there until they built the teaching hospital. And the quadrangle between the first wing and the second wing, when it rained, it wasn't paved. And when it rained, it was just a mud hole, quagmire. And that extended from Farm Road around the building to into that quadrangle. Finally, we got it blacktopped to where you could come in inclement weather. But I've seen that when the mud ruts were so deep, you were lucky to get through it in getting to the facility.
Now they've since that's about all office buildings now, isn't it? I mean, office
in
office
that
space.
old TF Quonset you're talking about.
Not Quonset, but in the actual building now.
The
med building. It's about all offices now, isn't it?
Yeah. Now I understand. I know they have more faculty numbers in the clinics than they had when I was there, but I think they're making some effort to get more office space because they need it for the clinicians, because they have more interns, residents, and young people coming in working. But I don't know how they're progressing on it.
Now, some things it'd probably be interesting to ask, and you may not remember, but when you went to work in 1954, you probably had a huge salary. What, do you remember what your salary was?
I think it was $6,500, and the department
not a month.
No, a year. And Dr. Wolf, I've kind of forgotten. His was a little more, not much more.
Because he was.
But he was department head.
Department head, right? Okay. He might have gotten 7,000.
More like it.
for a lot of fringe benefits, I'm sure, right?
Well, but there weren't many. Even the retirement benefits came along later. Because I remember going to a meeting over on campus when we were deciding whether to join teachers' retirement or not. It turned out to be a good thing. But other than that, it was all you had to look forward to was Social Security.
Now, did you include medical coverage? Did you have insurance?
Not till I believe it came along about the time we joined teachers' retirement. No, let's put it this way: it wasn't official type. It was more someone was ill and someone else would step in and do a little extra. But at that time, and this was, of course, the problem, I think, with Oklahoma, because from investing with OU people, I think we had a better deal, really, than they did. And they were separate, not like we have now, the common Oklahoma State employees thing.
What didn't you remember anything you remember different, especially unique, and when you got here in '54 and early '50s that stands out in your mind? We think of as being pretty funny right now, or pretty unusual.
Well, of course, when I came in, when I went to school here, Dr. Bennett was president. Of course, you had that change after we lost him, and Dr. Wilhelm was president. When I came here, I officially started to work even, because they'd hired me before. It was on weekends when I came by, and he wasn't available, but they went on anyway. And I went over to visit him, and I was impressed by his friendliness, and we just had a real nice friendly visit. Didn't say much except get to know one another. And two things I can remember that really kind of impressed me, and one of them was about him. He'd come out to the clinic, and especially in the afternoons. And the first time he came out, he says, "Do you mind my coming out?" And of course, he's the president. No, I'm not going to mind his coming. But he says, "I don't want you to think I'm checking up on you." But he says, "I found this is a good place for me to come, and I want to get out of the office for a while." And he'd follow around. I was treating cases, and he'd follow me around. We'd visit. And another one that would do that was Dean Mack, Dean McElroy. And he had a few animals, and he'd bring them out once in a while, and he would do it on a similar basis. And they assured me that we're not checking up on you. We just want to. It's kind of relaxation for me to get out here and do this. I appreciated it, to show an interest. Know that we were there.
Dean Mack had already retired.
He'd already retired. He retired about a year before.
Hang out.
And visit.
What'd you think of him?
As a person, I really liked him. As a dean of men when I was here, I did. Now he struck me as one of those fellows that, pat you on the back, everything's going to be great, but if you did something wrong, look out. There's a line you didn't cross, because there's a good chance you're gone if it was serious enough. That he was, a very friendly person, and personally, I liked him. But I also know some things that happened that he didn't fool around. He could dismiss a person or a faculty member just like that if he thought it was necessary.
That was before tenure.
Yeah.
And he did some of it, I guess.
Yeah. There were times in reading the history, and you probably read those history books or some of them. Of course, that is either skipped over or skimmed over, and not much said. You'd find more actually reading the news press probably on some of that controversy back in the 30s and 40s, and then really didn't want to put it in books. I could see you don't need to hang out in dirty linen.
Sure.
But I did enjoy Dean Mack and Oliver Wilhelm and their rapport.
Very supportive of the program,
Yeah.
too. Well, is anything, Dr. Johnson, we hadn't talked about you'd like to throw in at the end here before we finish? Anything else we hadn't covered?
I guess that's about it for now.
All right. Okay,
about run out of thoughts. I'll have plenty of them tonight.
Okay.